Well, if Governor Murphy has it his way, students in New Jersey will see a total cell phone ban before he leaves office in just 35 days. There's a bill working through the legislature right now that would require school districts to create policies to ban phones and other devices during the school day. Our mental health writer, Bobby Breyer, is here with us now to explain what's going on. Bobby, good to see you. Tell us what's happening with this bill. What would it do?
Sure, Joanna. This bill, when we look at it, would allow for the state commissioner of education to help local school boards implement policies that would restrict or limit access use to smartphones and other devices with internet access throughout the course of a school day. It would really seek to codify into law recent guidance from the state that at a minimum suggested that there was restrictions or limited use of these devices during the course of instructional time for kids in grades K through 12. That same report also went on to suggest a full limit of access to cell phones throughout the course of a day for students. So it's the most recent development that we've seen in this ongoing discussion. Of course, this was also a major talking point in the recent gubernatorial election here in New Jersey, and it's one that several other states have at least considered or put full-on bans into effect. So New Jersey would just be one of those other states if this does get signed into law.
So New Jersey, we know, has always honored home rule, where districts can really create policies that reflect the desires and the needs of their community. Many districts have already polled parents to find out where they stand on this, and not all parents agree. Not all parents want to see this ban. So would the guidance now from the State Department of Education override that home rule? Would it require that districts have these policies?
So these cell phone policies, and that's a really important point to note here, cell phone policies would be dictated by the local school boards themselves. And this guidance would also include recommendations on, in case of emergency, whether a student can use a cell phone. In many cases, of course, that answer is yes, as well as for students with disabilities and students with individualized education programs. We've already seen, as your point, Joanna, we've already seen these go into effect in some local school boards. I spoke to the superintendent of Jersey City Public Schools, one of the largest school districts in the state. She mentioned the positive effects that they've seen from reduced suicidal ideation, as well as reduced student suspensions, as well as students being able to connect socially more. So these are just some of the positive impacts that we've seen, but it would be a local school board's decision whether or not to implement these policies once they go into effect.
I found a couple of the details here really interesting. The first being that some districts would allow the phones to come out at recess, which is a time you'd think when you want the kids engaged with each other and not going to a device. The second, that they'd be banned on school buses, which is a time when kids are in transit, perhaps need to communicate, or that's when a parent would want to communicate with their child. Explain those two details there.
Sure. So those are certainly recommendations from the state. Those would once again be left up to the individual school districts to determine whether they would want to use or follow that. Of course, that comes into the in case of emergency kind of situation where if a student has to use their cell phone, in that case, in many cases, school boards would be allowing that to happen. But it should be noted that while these are guidelines from the state, the local jurisdiction, the local school board would be the one with the ultimate staying power. And then the school boards themselves, the principals, the teachers would be the ones that would be able to dictate these policies on a case-by-case basis throughout the course of a school day. So in many cases, students are still able to use their cell phones on school buses, as well as to use it in case of emergency. So this would be something that would be up to ultimately the schools themselves.
If many districts do buy on to this policy, if the school boards do pass them, there's going to come a cost with this, right? Because we know the governor already put up, or the legislature and the governor together put up some close to $3 million for districts that wanted to purchase these devices that can hold a phone so that a student can't access it during the day. Do you envision this being a cost that the legislature is going to really need to weigh?
It certainly would be a cost that they need to weigh in this moment during the lame duck session if this bill gets to the governor's desk. and then in future budgets. What's interesting here is that the bill, though, has had bipartisan support. It is something many times when it comes to youth mental health issues, there has often been bipartisan gain so that these bills could get across the finish line, not just here in New Jersey, but in many other states. So it is certainly a cost that the state would have to take on, one that would most likely gain the backing from both Democratic and Republican senators and assembly persons here in the state because of the possibility of the positive mental health use benefits that they may see among youth, as well as some of the ways in which this could help student learning and student interaction. So certainly something that could come up in future budget negotiations, but it is something that I have heard from both Democrats and Republicans that they would support.
You know, as a parent myself, it's hard not to put this conversation in the context of what we saw just this weekend, the shooting at Brown University. We know that school shootings continue to be a problem. It's one of the reasons why many parents still want contact with their kids during the school day. But I just want to drill in the little time we have left to what you mentioned Norma Fernandez, Dr. Norma Fernandez in Jersey City had pointed to. What does the data show in terms of the benefits for students when they don't have the phone with them during the day?
Sure. We've seen a positive uptick in student engagement, essentially students being able to maybe concentrate more throughout the course of an actual school day while they're in class, unless that is used for things like academic purposes, using a laptop to, say, write a paper, to view PowerPoint slides. But it's important to note that there's also this social impact. Of course, students many of them have lived through the pandemic themselves when they were isolated from their friends and family. This would allow for many of them to kind of get that face-to-face interaction that they had been missing to create more lasting bonds that they had not previous to that.
All right, Bobby Breyer, our mental health writer, thank you for your work on this, as well as Hannah Gross, who we know contributed before she left us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joanna.